trying to say this every week. I apologize if I miss. If you can hear the sound of my voice, it is indeed good morning. My name is Clinton Parrish, and I am the co-host of Freedom of the Middle on Intex News Radio, reality radio where everybody can be a star. And as we announced in the last couple of weeks, the professor, Professor Tony Seabrook, has taken a brief break from the show. And in his stead, we have sitting in with us none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Pete Edwards, affectionately known by the community as Sweet Pete. What's going on, Pete? How you doing this morning? Well, listen, man. If for somebody like you to say that, I take it to heart because Pete, you have worked so long in this community, forging an effort to try to make this place a better place for so many people, and you've impacted so many people. But listen, I am excited because I get every week now to go one on one with you. And I know rumors out there say, listen, I was unfair and I took advantage of the poor professor and did all these kind of things, and that I'd have met my match now. That Pete Edwards is gonna put me in my place and show me my ways of wrongness. So, welcome this morning, Pete. And for all those people that listen, we've got Pete Edwards now co-hosting on Straight Up the Middle on Intex News Radio. Pete, I know we've gone over a list of things, and you mentioned you got so much on your mind. You know, this is a place that we've tried to create where people can wake up on Saturday morning, listen to some thoughts, share their thoughts as well, and if they want to participate in the discussion. So before I get started, Pete, with what I know we want to talk about, and everybody knows me and you can talk, I want to let everybody know, listen, you can participate in the show as well. The show is open to callers, and here's how you can do it. There are two ways to do it. One is to go to your phone and text to the number 25324, and you're going to text SUTM. The number is 2534. The subject you put in SUTM, and that's going to kick you over to our Zoom link. It may ask you for a Zoom ID. So write this down: 853-7002-0801. It may ask you that. It may also ask you, if you want to try to do this, you can call in. The number is 929-205-6099. And if you don't want to do that, you can sit back and just listen to me and Pete talk like we're sitting on his front porch or in my backyard or the barbershop or wherever it may be. I'm going to throw you a curveball, Pete, because I know we didn't talk about this, but it came up to me as something that I think needs to be discussed. It's the issue of the vote for reparations in the city of Evanston. And if a lot of people don't know, the city of Evanston is in Illinois, it's right outside of Chicago, it's a suburb, and they voted to award reparations to former residents or current residents who can demonstrate they were discriminated against through the housing policies from 1919 through 1969. When you heard that they were voting for reparations, Pete, what did you think? What did it you felt good? You say, wait, this may be wrong, or what did you think about that? Yeah. You know, one of the things that always jump out at me whenever I think of the government doing anything, I always start with the premise that government has no money. It only has our money. So where's the money going to come from that's going to fund whatever it is you're talking about, whatever that may be? That's the first thing that jumps out at me. The other thing I thought was quite interesting is they targeted 1919 through 1969. They didn't go back to slavery. And I think what this opens the door for, Pete, is a different conversation, which is the one that I've always said. You know, slavery had been around for hundreds of years in all kinds of forms all over the world. So I get that part. Okay. What I didn't get was after slavery that America had adopted a constitution and set forth the certain ideals and beliefs that this country will be founded upon. And then it immediately after that set out to not live up to those things intentionally, to intentionally work up ways to discriminate against Black people and prevent them from fulfilling what America can offer them. So I thought this is the first time I really never thought about it. I've always said, well, while you're talking about slavery, you should be talking about what happened after slavery. And suddenly this thing pops up. Now, I find it also interesting, it goes towards targeting housing. If I'm not mistaken, you can get a certain amount of a grant to go towards purchasing housing within this area. And I think, well, that does something for those neighborhoods. But what about this issue, Pete? You know, I've left a number of neighborhoods, and I think I represent a lot of people where I've been in a neighborhood, and then because of my own choices of what I wanted for my life, I left those neighborhoods. Nobody can make me stay or be in those neighborhoods. And I don't know that we want to create a financial incentive, I guess, that forces people to make that choice as opposed to being where they would or would not, you know, want to live. Every community, think about this, every area changes at some time from what it was before to what it is now. And to try to anchor that into some set parameters forever, I think opens the door for other issues that we don't want to really be, where people are restricted to where they can go and what they can do. But what about the idea, Pete, of now we're talking about compensation for the years of discrimination? And I thought that was trying to be addressed through affirmative action. Are we now going back and we're going to address that issue again? Is that what they're saying with this vote in Evanston? Now, what do you mean by that, though? Give me some more context. But is that horse out the barn? Aren't these communities already, um, I guess, in a transition phase where the ability of any leadership to emerge that would stop that is going to be very difficult? You know what, Pete? You know what? That's a great moment to segue because you bring up the issue in Georgia, and I presume that you're referring to the new Georgia voting law that was passed um, last week. Now, Pete, those are Republic. That's a Republican initiative. Uh, that's being pushed. All right, so but the core issue, and you mentioned it, and I'm not going to let you get away with this that easy. That is a Republican controlled state legislature that is pushing that. Those aren't radical leftists. And they may have their own agenda, but that stuff that we're seeing in Georgia, and I think it's 41, 42 other states, is mainly being pushed by a Republican agenda to restrict voting access by mainly Black and brown people. But are there left? But are there left right now though, Pete? After what happened 4 years ago, had most of the moderate and I think reasonable Republicans gotten run out the party, or they've been forced to rebrand stuff as something else? Yeah, but hold on. I can't let you get away with that because, but they put a lot of pressure on those judges to say that they're Republican, and almost every black judge you got appointed had to come forward and say that I'm a Republican, or at least change their party or show some kind of, yeah, that's political. But they did that, and I know of one or two locally who tried and ultimately they were basically told, look, until you make this change now. I want look at I go a step further, Pete, and I'm okay about how people look, but I'm more concerned about what you do, how you think, and how you impact things. And just because somebody's black, you're gonna have to do more than that for me. You're gonna have to show that you're fair, that you're open-minded, that you're gonna give people an equal opportunity in what it is that in the position that you've taken. So when you appoint black judges, which Clarence Thomas is black, but he's done nothing to advance the interests of black people in this country. So just having black folks there is not the key. It's having the right minded black folks in those positions. Yeah, not guilty, but maybe obligated or but see, but okay, let's take the judges. I won't call any judges. A number of judges that we've gotten appointed locally have come out of nowhere almost. They've not been involved in the community, overly connected. Now, some have gotten that way after they've been in office, and that's through a lot of hard work. But initially, when they showed up, they were not. And you mentioned, Pete, we can expect something similar to what happened in Georgia trickling down to Florida. I thought Florida had already done some of that stuff under the previous governor. But right, and well, let me touch on that real quickly. And I thought we could have had that with Andrew Gillum. However, he is now compromised. Whatever reasons, he is no longer a. Stacey Abrams emerges as that figure once she loses the office. But we don't have a on a statewide level because of the way that Florida's run so far. You might in the next election get someone that emerges to that level, but they need some statewide standing, and I think Stacey Abrams got that. The second thing is, Georgia goes as Atlanta goes, and you have a force in Atlanta of black folks that are able to extend their power throughout other areas of the state to a certain extent. But guess what? They've not taken over the legislature though. That may be coming. They have not. But let me ask you this though. You mentioned we may see this coming to Florida. What kind of additional restrictions would you anticipate coming to Florida, would that be lesser days of voting early, the ID requirement stuff, purging the voter rolls? What kind of stuff? Right. And that is again, I think, clearly an effort not to squelch free speech. And while I think that law will have major issues passed in constitutional muster, it's going to take somebody fighting it, and right, and that's because you've had 20 years, Pete, of a Republican controlled state legislature and governor's office. And Charlie Crist was Republican. He's old chain gang Charlie, wanted to bring back chain gang. So we know what his underlying ideology is. He may be doing something for political expediency, but this all seems to be fitting into, Pete, a Republican oppressive strategy targeting toward African Americans. Uh-huh. Okay. So, but I disagree a little bit on that, and I'm going to tell you why. One, we in Florida have incredibly changing demographics. The influx of people from Puerto Rico, more liberal Northerners moving to Florida, moving to the South. Uh, I just think that there's a difference because Gillum came really close to winning in Florida, which is evidence of that coalition you talked about at a time when you had the sitting president campaigning and pushing DeSantis as the candidate. Compare that similarly to Stacey Abrams in Georgia. She almost won that. Really down to enough that it was close enough that look, but for their decency and saying we're going to let this thing move on, those elections could have remained in contention for a very long period of time. So I think there is an ability in Florida for that to change. The issue is going to be whether or not enough rules aren't changed before then that disenfranchise people so that they're not able to vote. And that's the thing that's got me concerned. It's targeted. Right. Yeah, yeah, I definitely see what you say. You know, you hit that is a very very key point, Pete. Listen, look, all right. I mean, I think I'm still in the middle. I think I'm still in the middle of the ring. I'm getting some text messages saying, "Clint, you taking it on the chin," but I'm still fighting everybody. I'm out here doing the best I can with Pete. Listen, Pete, we've already reached halfway point of the show. We're gonna take a quick break, pay some bills, and come back on the other side of the show. We're gonna talk about a couple other things. What's happening with this awareness of issues and Asians in America and the Black communities, support for them? You all saw the Biden press conference. We'll be right back. Take a quick break. In Touch News Radio, reality radio. Everybody can be in the start. We'll be right back.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
In Touch Radio, the most loved station across the nation. In Touch Radio. Radio. Tell a friend. In Touch Radio.
All right, we're back live on Tech News Radio, reality radio. Everybody can be a star. My name is Clinton Paris. I am the co-host of Straight Up the Middle. I am joined by a new co-host, none other than Sweet Pete Edwards, the man, the myth, the legend. Pete, it's just so wonderful to have you on the station. And listen, I mean, you have such a wealth of information. You put it in such a context. And the beautiful thing I like about what you do, Pete, is you stay relevant by talking to people who are now looking at their future and trying to position themselves to have the kind of success that they deserve in this country. So I commend you for that. And I'm glad to have you here on the show. One of the things that I know we kicked around talking about was the Biden press conference, Joe Biden's press conference. There was a lot of pressure on Joe Biden to finally hold a press conference. In my mind, the first thing I think about is the media's position that they're so important that somebody has to come sit down and talk with them. I'm kind of over that a little bit. I think the argument that they try to influence things too much is realistic. The other part to it is the reality of it is we need the media speaking out and bringing things to light and sharing information and forcing certain conversations. But Joe held his first press conference. What were some of your takeaways from that press conference, Pete, as you kind of saw our president speaking up for the first time? Okay. Right. Yeah. Uh-huh. Right. Well, hold on, Pete. Hold on, Pete. Hold right there for a minute. And let me paint the picture for a lot of folks who don't really understand this. What you see in those beauty supply stores is the tip of the iceberg. The entire supply chain is controlled by the Asian community. The entire, not just what you see at the store. So if you were to want to open your own store and buy products and all that kind of stuff, you would have to dive back into the Asian community, which is not open to that competition, if you get my drift. Meaning they're not going to sell to you. The supply chain, it is a insular, I mean, all the way back to the import process is completely controlled by the Asian community. So go ahead and pick up from their feet. You were saying they were limiting the opportunity for the people they hired. Okay, but isn't that, but that falls in, but Pete, doesn't that fall on both sides? One of them is one, the methodology of the African American community to find a way to bridge that gap. One, I get it on their end that they don't do this thing, but does that mean then that the Black community should look for more ways to engage them, or that's one, from a constructive approach. The other approach is you don't have to support their businesses. And no, I'm hardcore anti supporting any business that I think has demonstrated it is not in favor of trying to improve things in our community. And the dollar speaks louder than anything else. But in that, doesn't that fall back on the Black community then to deal with it? Hey, Pete, hold on for just a minute, real Pete. I just got a text message sent to me from somebody saying that they can't hear Pete back in the studio. Anna, yeah, Anna, yeah, can you check on that, Anna, real quick? You may need to check on the Zoom link because this stuff we're okay. The stuff we're talking about here, I'm getting a lot of text messages about concern for this relationship between the Black and the Asian community, and I want to make sure people hear Pete well on what he's saying. So if you go ahead, Pete, pick up from there if you can. Okay, but hold on. Okay, but I get that, Pete. And if you could, Anna, check the Facebook audio. I think that's where the issue is. But here's my question, Pete, though. But does that fall to them or for the African American community to be more creative to come up with a way to make it work? Right. But let me say, but don't we risk? Doesn't it look like a stronger coalition if you can create the appearance of numbers and everybody being on the same uh, um, page, it does not give you, I guess, a greater presence, and it gives your movement more validity when you bring or you make it appear that you're open to anyone, you know, being a part of what you're trying to do. But I know they don't want that. But I think on a national level, the messaging is if you this gives a stronger appearance if we look unified and maybe along the listen, Pete. Look, I mean, let's be honest. Everybody wasn't all the black folks weren't in favor of civil rights. You know, so the fact that these folks haven't gotten it yet doesn't mean that they can't get it, and that there's not a way that we can work to figure that out to bring them along. Right, but let me throw this out though. It has been evidenced by the plight of African Americans in this country as relates to civil rights. It's tough. It's dangerous. It costs you a lot. Sometimes it may cost you your life to do it. And I get that these people have ducked their heads out of fear, out of whatever it may be, to say, look, if y'all are not bothering us, and the one or two times you do, we'll just tolerate that and go about our business and do our thing. But as African Americans, caught up in this struggle to make this entire country a better place, we can't fall victim to that. And that brings us to the last thing that I had on my list that I want to bring up with you today, and that is the appearance of this thing at the border. The first question is there a border crisis or is there not a border crisis right now going on under the Biden administration? What's your thoughts on that? Is there a border crisis or is there not a border crisis? Right. Well, one of them is, I think one of the issues I think that people found out is sometimes people show up, they want their kids back. So the further away they got to come to get them, the better chance you got to keep them. We saw that with our recent Supreme Court nominee. She's going all over the world adopting people's kids, and you're right about that whole dynamic. But so my first thought was, well, so if we don't have a crisis, what is the whole buildup about? Is this just politics, or is it just a slow media week and they need something to cover? Why are we seeing all these images? Why is Ted Cruz in the middle of the night standing in the middle of a reed field, looking like he's a black ops operator, if we don't have a real crisis on the border? Listen, listen. I got a daughter. And I want my daughter to be happy, marry who she wants to marry. Hopefully, people can think along those lines. But I was watching this whole thing play out, and I was trying to figure out, if somebody, builds up something enough, you hear it enough, you keep saying it enough, you're like, well, maybe that is a major problem that needs to be dealt with. How did you think Joe Biden dealt with that issue in his press conference? Hey Pete, what real quickly now? What do you think about this issue of the border issue being given to Kamala? Up to now, I didn't know what she was really doing, standing behind Joe most of the time when he does these announcements. But why? What? How do you think she's going to do with this issue? Listen, man, I am getting some great text messages sent to me saying that how people like what you're saying, and that I'm gonna have to step up my game, I guess. As we go into this next week, I know it's Palm. Man, I hadn't got you to the ground yet, man. I done tried to kick a leg out or something, and nothing has worked so far. What would you say that we need to be looking out for next week? We got a minute left, Pete. What should we be looking out for next week? Outstanding, Pete. Thank you very much as always. You're doing a fantastic job here on the show. We appreciate having you here. These hours fly by so fast, and unfortunately, everybody, hey, look, that's all we got for you this week. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, you can join us again next week on In Touch News Radio, reality radio, where everybody can be a star. See you back here next week. Have a great time. Bye bye.